Coming up on this episode of Flirtations, we welcome Dana Flaherty to the show, who is going to share with us an incredible story of courage, perseverance, and healing as we talk about narcissism. Dana lets us into her experience being in a relationship with a narcissist, how it started, what the turning point was when she knew she needed to leave, and then how she did just that. We'll also be exploring what narcissism truly is, how to identify a narcissist, what it means to trust your gut. We'll be talking about how to heal and trust people again after being with a narcissist, and why, no matter if you're in this situation right now, how you can love yourself through it all, and why the best is yet to come. So stay tuned as we get inspired by Dana and learn to live a little more courageously today. Let's do this, flirties.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, Flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, Flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Flirties, I am so freaking excited to bring this episode to you today as we are sitting down with Dana Flaherty on the show to talk about narcissism, healing, and living courageously. Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. So excited.
Oh my gosh. I know we're all going to be so inspired by you today, as I initially started following you on TikTok kind of a while ago, well over a year at this point. And I got to be honest, when I go through my saved videos, half of them are you. They truly are. When I need a pep talk, just a pickup, just to be like someone to sit down and talk to me, it's a Dana video.
Oh, that makes me feel so. That's why I do it. That makes me like, it gives me, okay, this is your purpose. Like, keep going.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad.
Oh, so good. All right. So we're going to really take people through the journey of a narcissistic relationship today, how they perhaps start, how we can get into them. And then once we're in them, why they can be so incredibly difficult to leave and break free from, but that you did just that and have really been healing and just putting out so much incredible and valuable information and insight into how to do this. So first things first, as we're going to get to know you a lot in this episode today, I do want to ask you just a little bit about yourself, maybe a few things here. Like, I know you're a mama. Yeah, a few things you may want to share with the flirties here at the top.
Yeah. So I am on TikTok, but that's not my main job. I'm actually a regional sales manager. So I do travel for work. And I love my job. People say, like, are you going to quit one day? Probably not, just because I love leading people. I love having a team. And then I have 3 kids. So I have a 12-year-old, an 11-year-old, and then I have a 6-year-old. And we're all spicy, neurodivergent. My youngest is autistic, and then I have ADHD, and then my other 2 do as well. So we're a good time. Yeah. And we just actually moved from North Carolina to South Carolina. So we're Southerners down here.
So good. 2 Southerners on the show today. Yeah, we're not too incredibly far apart. I'm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So
I didn't know you were that close.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yes. Yeah. If I come up there, I need to come see you. Yes.
Please do. Up the road a few hours. We'll hang out and be neurodivergent together.
Yes, I would love to. Yes.
All right. I want to get your perspective now, because the term narcissism gets put out there a lot. If you're on social media, or even if you're not, you're just watching TV, you're browsing through a bookstore, like the Amazon storefront of books, something like that. You hear the term and see the term narcissism a lot. But from your perspective, how would you even describe it?
And actually, it does get thrown out a lot. And I do think, and I have to say that somebody might have narcissistic tendencies, but they might not be a full-blown narcissist. I mean, we can even go in and out of it, right? Yeah. And so a narcissist, truly, in my opinion, is like borderlining almost like a sociopath a little bit. So I've been with people that are just emotionally immature. So they're defensive, their communication is not good. They have a lot of trauma that they might not bring, that they bring into the relationship that could hurt the relationship. That doesn't mean that they're a narcissist, but a narcissist, I think the difference is that they have an intention to harm you, like they get pleasure from that almost. That I just remember like any holiday that I've ever had or birthday, they wanted to ruin it. But somebody that is a narcissist, and I look truly like at the family dynamic, but definitely there's a physical trait, I think too, that like it's like a vacancy in their eyes a little bit. Like you can, now I can see it. It's like my spidey senses, but that's definitely something that people could even look out for. But narcissists are not truly happy at all with themselves. And I realized that, like, and even looking back, because I have to co-parent with one, and the moods go up and down. It's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You never know what you're going to get. And that's kind of what keeps you on that cycle. They're defensive. They never take any accountability. They're never truly sorry. And one of the things that like broke my heart is that they don't truly love you. They're not a true narcissist. I don't believe is capable of loving somebody. So that's also like, it messes with your mind. It's hard to get your head around that for sure.
Yeah. So good. I love this distinction right away as you're calling out some of the behaviors of the narcissist. And I like your description because it's one thing, if someone is perhaps more avoidant with their communication or something like that, or they did something to hurt our feelings and they don't apologize perhaps in the way that we would like or take that accountability, and we can be quick to label them narcissist. But there is a true distinction perhaps from having bad dating behavior or not being able to take accountability from someone that has, you're so right, it's that vacancy in their eyes. And it's this extreme, it's about, they love what you can do for them, but not exactly you, loving you for who you are.
Absolutely. And they have an identity crisis at any given point. Like I know that my ex, he was like, I'm going to get into fly fishing. I'm going to be this kind of person. Like and I'm all about reinventing yourself, doing new interests, but they're just constantly searching for something to fill them up because they're so incredibly empty. But I mean, I couldn't even sleep next to him at night. I mean, that's how unsettling their presence is. It's very different than like what you said, that avoidant defensive behavior. That just takes that I think with therapy, they can get there. Somebody that's a true narcissist, they don't think they have a problem. And so they're not going to be open to therapy, and they're not going to get the healing that they need to be better. And I don't think they want to be.
Yeah. There's almost like this comfort in the existence of who they are. It's so rooted in their identity, and probably if there's, something happening in the brain there genetically, or if it's tied to their upbringing, their family dynamics, I think it's really complicated about how someone may become or develop into a narcissist, because there's no true, like, you go to the doctor, here's a blood test and your blood type, what A, B, or O, whatever. It's based on observation and personal experiences and stories. And it's where like the narcissist could be, oh no, I didn't do that, right? Or no, they're turning your words against you. So I think I want to, talk now about meeting the narcissist when you don't know that that's who they are initially, because they can also be very charming and very charismatic, and they can really make you feel good. So if you could share a little bit from your experience about those early phases of getting to know the narcissist, even dating the narcissist.
Yeah. So I think that it's important too to see, I don't want to say that it's our fault, but we have to look at like our role in it too. And narcissists are extremely attracted to empathetic individuals, and unfortunately I see these beautiful souls that are just getting torn to shreds. So something that like with the narcissist that I felt initially was I felt seen. I felt like they understood me. He made it feel very safe and easy for me to open up about my life. And I told him things that I didn't tell anybody, like very quickly. It was very quick. And it's funny because like he would always be like, "Hey, you want to hang out again tonight? You want to hang out again tonight?" And for me, I had just come off of a on again, off again relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, God, this guy wants to pursue me. Like he like really wants me. Like he's putting in effort. And I thought that was just so amazing. And then we would have these deep conversations, these it just felt like this strong connection that he eventually played against me. But it's a very quick thing. I mean, I met him in July. We got engaged in September.
Mm-hmm.
Got pregnant in September, got married in December. It was very, very quickly. And that's by design, you know.
Yeah.
And to get swept, if you're ever getting swept away, that's a huge caution. You need to like slow down. And I remember when I was doing it, I felt anxiety that I never had because I could feel almost like I had no choice. Like it was like a current and he was taking me with him. He was extremely charming, good to my kids. He was amazing. He was amazing. And that's what we pine for later is that beginning thing. And I just remember being so incredibly in love with this human and thinking he came from God. And it was, that's why it's so heartbreaking because that initial just interaction you have with them is like, it's like magical.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is, I think, a good time now to ask this question from a flirty because it's about how can you make that distinction between that genuine interest, compatibility, right? They seem like they're really, sweeping you off your feet. You're having some deep conversation, sharing things with them that you maybe have never shared with anything else. The question here is some of those red flags early on to watch out for that maybe now in hindsight you see? Is it around pacing or I'm curious from your experience, some things early on to look for?
So definitely pacing would be one thing for sure. And I think that if they have a sense of urgency to lock you down, be with you, you need to like, okay, why do they have such a sense of urgency? Like if we have time, we're getting to know each other, then that shouldn't be an issue, right? I think the thing that I look back on is that we were having conversations that like it was a C conversation, but we never had an A or a B conversation. Like we never took the time and did pace ourselves. And I think too, especially empathic people, we want to open up, we want to share and when you do feel so seen and understood, and I'm not saying be necessarily guarded, but you need to always keep some of that vital information close to your chest. And if they're pressing or I don't know how to explain it other than that sense of urgency, then that would make you definitely take a second. And I will say that people always feel like it's too good to be true in the beginning. If it's too good to be true, it most likely is. Because one of the things that I've realized, because I don't date narcissists now, is we're dating humans. We're dating imperfect people that are never necessarily the total package. That's something that I think the narcissist disguises themselves as, the total package. And we have to realize that that's not necessarily it. Slow and steady and the slow flame is way better than that fast, quick one that's just going to burn out. But he would also have some defensive tendencies. He would talk about all of his exes being crazy. It was always their fault. And he had no true friendships. So he would talk about a buddy here and there, but nobody was long lasting in his life. And then when I met his family, they were like, oh God, this is another one kind of thing. You need to look at his relationships for sure too.
Yeah.
Biggie.
That's two really key distinctions right there is putting down exes. It's never their fault, and also this lack of the lack of relationships in their lives, these lack of deep connections. And something else that I think you were describing too is it's one thing to be in the honeymoon phase, and if you're feeling some of those sparks and having that chemistry, but if there is this, like you said, we're dating imperfect people, and if there's a lack of conflict, there's a lack of problems, they very much, I think, try and make everything as smooth and as easy as possible so that there isn't those points of conflict, because then they're going to have to reveal some of their true nature. And how
A
they
million percent.
process that.
And there's a lot more covert narcissists, and that's who
Yeah.
my ex was. And so he almost seemed like meek, mild mannered. And he talked about like the pain in his life and like everybody always did him wrong. And so me, like I came in with like my savior complex trying to like save him and fix him. My love can fix him. And so later on when I was getting abused, I was like, but he was troubled. He's troubled, you know, and you make excuses for this human. And then there's their more like overt kind, and that's where they're talking about themselves, that greatness. But you don't really see that as much as you do like the covert ones.
The covert.
I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm curious now, at what point you started to see some of the behaviors change when you maybe started to see that this person could be a narcissist, when maybe some of the abuse started in that relationship, when kind of if there was a turning point or if some of those changes happened gradually.
So, and my best friend said, she was like, well, you guys were never really good. You know, you never felt that sense of security. And you would always call me and be like, is this normal? And it would just be his reaction to me sharing my feelings or his reaction to, you know, because we blended two families immediately. I was 30 years old. That was extremely overwhelming for me. If I was stressed and I went to him, it was always this like upheaval. And then he would leave and go to, you know, his friends or his parents for 3 days. It was weird. But I guess I was in that fog, but I just clearly remember when I was pregnant, we got into an argument and he took a trash can and like threw it at me. And I was like, what was that? And I had just found out I was pregnant. And later on, I talked to a domestic violence hotline and they said, once you're engaged or you have a big life event that solidifies you to, that's when you're going to really start seeing those abusive tendencies because they feel like they truly have control, like there's no way out and they can show themselves for who they are. And it was like a night and day is like when the abuse started with that. But then from there, it just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious now how I have a couple more questions here, and one is around intuition. I get this question a lot, and how to differentiate that gut feeling that something is not quite right from anxiety. So I think you were speaking to this dual experience here where like you're reaching out to your friend, like, is this normal? But you're also having some anxiety where it feels like things are moving super quick. So yeah, just from your experience here, making that difference between intuition and anxiety and how to just trust your gut more.
Yeah. And it's funny because after I hear a lot from people that are really scared, especially after they've been in a narcissistic relationship, they're scared to trust themselves, to not get like duped again.
Yeah.
And there's a couple factors that go into that. I do feel like we're not going to be these completely healed people walking around trying to date. But if you can, I've realized I had codependency. I had some inner child healing I had to work on. I had a lot that I needed to work on. And now that healed version of me, and I'm not there, I've got a journey, but that healed version of me it will never attract that again. Like that will never like happen. That I'm not even, I mean, you could say energy, frequency, whatever people want to call it. But when somebody starts, just even how he would have started, that would have just been so unappealing to me now. But I will say that your body, when you have anxiety about something, and you might have an anxious attachment style, you might have that kind of thing. But if you have anxiety, your body is just responding to something that is not right. You know, if this is something that like you might have as a pattern in all of your relationships, and you know that you have an anxious attachment style, you know, that's a different case. And some people might just have anxiety on their own. But I was like, I wish that I would not have ignored it. And I do feel like we need to trust ourselves more when we have that gut feeling. And I go back and I'm like, God, I wish that I would have listened to myself. I wish that I would have there was a moment in time that he was really defensive. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And we broke up for like 2 days. And I go back to that. I'm like, I wish that I would have just held my guns because I even said, like, maybe I overreacted, maybe it was me, but I knew there was something there. There was something deeper there that was not right. It was that darkness. And I don't know how else to describe it. Is like, it is a darkness that you experience with that person. But for the most part, if you're feeling anxious in that relationship because of those kind of things, it's probably true, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've dated secure people that maybe we haven't worked out, but they were love and light in my life, right? But we didn't work out. But them being a secure person made me more secure. Like it definitely helped heal parts of me that I didn't even realize I needed to heal, but I had to heal them while being in a relationship with somebody that was secure.
Absolutely.
And he brought out a lot of the bad in me because it was just there.
Yeah. I like that distinction so much. And I want to ask now, because I got a couple of questions like this from the Flirties, and when you're in it, and we're going to get here in just a moment to breaking free from the narcissist. But one more question here, and how it starts to just play with your mental health and affect how you feel about yourself and your own self-worth, and even your physical health too.
I mean, so I have lupus. I have an autoimmune disease. None of that manifested until I was on the back end of that narcissistic relationship. What it does to your health is insanity. And I literally thought I was going crazy. I felt like at one point it was so bad that I thought, I was like, do I need to check into a mental hospital? Because I thought that I was a menace to society. He had me so convinced that I was a bad mother, a bad human. I was crazy. I was so self-conscious then of how I parented. Everything was picked apart. So everything about me, I thought was just terrible. And then you are gaslit. You think you're crazy. My mental health was awful. Like, and I look back at pictures and I look like a completely different person because the light was just not in my eyes. Like the things that made me Dana were not there.
Yeah.
And because he didn't want me to, anything that made me special, he didn't want me to feel that way. You know, even my cooking, like he would nitpick everything. And it was always my fault. And it really, I can't even explain like the fog and just me as a mom not being present. It was really tough on me, and the guilt that I had after that, because I was just trying to like survive. And then they're Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You don't know what to expect. So your nervous system is constantly just in disarray, and it's not normal to have your adrenal glands pumping constantly, you know?
Yeah.
So then after, and we can go in that too, but I was just in like that shutdown mode. And I just remember sleeping because you're living in a battle zone every day. And that's why I really encourage people, get out while you can, because it affected my physical health ultimately.
Yeah. And how, so good. I've dated a narcissist too, and I can relate to so much of what you're saying. It's like, what makes you slowly gets extinguished. That light and you just, and the things, it goes dim, and the things you used to enjoy, you start not really finding enjoyment in them. And you're in this constant state of stress. Like you said, your adrenals, like just running on stress hormones. You're always trying to problem solve so you can appease and keep the narcissist just calm, right? So they don't react. Just, you're very much tending and serving their needs, and that's what they want. That's what they want. And then you're in this lockstep mental sort of game with them where, all right. So
no, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
Like you explained it perfectly. It's exactly that. And unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever be the same. You know, there's some parts of me, I feel like I'm built up better in a lot of ways, but there are parts of me, that childlike part of Dana, that, you know, of being vulnerable and a lot, like I'm very different now. I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
And I love who I am now, but it changed who I was. And there's things that unfortunately I don't think I'll ever get back.
All right, I definitely want to come back to that, as I have some questions here just about how to trust people again and if you're starting to date again. So yeah, coming back to that and be vulnerable. Yeah, after this experience, but now to the point of that relationship, how did you get out?
It took multiple times. I
Yeah.
mean, I want to say close to 20 times.
Hmm.
And he would leave me because he would always make it my fault. And then and I was physically abused. I was choked, I was punched, I had my face broken. It was bad. Like, it was really bad. And then he left me and I was begging him to come back to me even though he beat me, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not downplaying the physical abuse, but it was the emotional warfare that just had me so downtrodden. And so he left me and I started working. It's so interesting. I started working on myself, found out I was codependent. Then I had a hypnotist do this thing called
Hmm.
RTT. It's called Rapid Transformational Therapy.
Hmm.
And it's really cool if you ever want to look into it. But so I had this hypnosis session, and I expelled a lot of like things in my life that were just like deeply rooted. I remember actually having a physical response. Like, I was coughing and like
Mm.
literally my body was releasing some things. And then this happened one evening till like 10 p.m.
Hmm.
Maybe at like, I don't know, I think it was 7 o'clock the next morning, he showed up at my front doorstep.
Mm.
And it was almost, I feel like, a change in the energy. He showed up, he wanted to work on our marriage. We got back together. And that didn't last for another like 3 months. And then, so when he left, he did some things that were like, he threw a plate of nachos at me or something like that. But I just remember sitting there thinking, as I was cleaning off the like plate of nachos,
Mm.
like, I never, ever, ever was born in this life with the purpose that I have to be treated this way by somebody. And
Yeah.
I'm Christian, so I was always like, you know, God, he wants my marriage to work. No. He cares way more about you than he does your marriage. And I was cleaning off this up and I was like, no, I had like a spark kind of hit. I'm like, no,
Hmm.
you are worthy. This is not what your life is supposed to be.
Hmm.
And it was a decision. It was the hardest decision of my life, but it was to never, ever let him come back even close to me again.
Mm.
And you have to have that never again moment. You do.
Mm. And I'm so glad that you are here and you're okay to share your story and empower other women that are perhaps in this situation. I know there's going to be at least one flirty listening to this somewhere in the world that is living this right now. And so
Right.
I want to ask you a couple more questions here, and these came directly from some of the flirties, and that is how to not get pulled back in. They say they've changed, right? They're alluding to all these things that are going to improve. They XYZ is going to happen. Mm. Yeah.
And it does take time sometimes,
Hmm.
and you have to forgive yourself, because I felt so incredibly stupid. I was like, God, I'm so stupid for don't feel that way,
Yeah.
because we don't need to be mad at ourselves for having big hearts and loving people through their flaws, right? But then there's a point where you have to choose yourself and you have to make it. I think of people that are like in recovery and they stay like one day at a time.
Hmm.
It does feel like you are withdrawing from a drug. And so you kind of have to look at it like that. You have to take it one day at a time. It has to be a decision. Your emotions are not a good guide in this process at all. If they've changed, you would need to see concrete proof, and you would need to see consistent, concrete proof over a period of time.
Mm.
They can't, I guarantee they can't do it. They
Yeah.
won't, they don't have the capability of doing it.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to understand and prepare yourself. You have got to prepare yourself that they are going to fight really hard to come back. They are going to do everything they can to get back into your life. And they'll pull out every single stop, every single
Mhm.
stop. And if you can mentally prepare yourself for that, so that when you see it coming, you know exactly what it is,
Yeah.
then you can, combat it with that. And you need to go no contact, truly.
Yeah.
It's the best way.
I agree, because they will do they'll do that thing where it seemed like it's like the Jekyll and Hyde part coming out, where it's like all of a sudden this good behavior may present itself, but for a moment, and then you can get attached to that and date. Oh, well, they've proven they could do this, or they've shown me that they could do this, or how they were in the beginning. And so you start to date who you want them to be. And I so relate to your part of the story of being the fixer, and you want to go in, and I'm very empathetic as well, deeply feeling. So I relate to your experience so much. And so I want to ask now, you mentioned some healing you did in that relationship that really came before sort of that final moment, that spark within you that, you know what, this is not who I am. This is not my life. And so some of the healing you started to do, in that relationship, some of those initial steps you took to leave.
Yeah. And I saw this TikTok actually, and I mentioned this on my TikTok, and they said one of the biggest indicators of childhood trauma is trying to convince people to treat you the right way, you know? And that was me just trying to like convince him, no, I'm worthy enough for you to treat me good, you know? And then I would try to be as perfect as possible, and I still wasn't treated well. Yeah. And that is something that, you have to challenge yourself on that. Like, what about me? Because he was the worst, but I had bad relationships prior. What about me is attracting this and allowing this? Because somebody that loves themselves so much, and I used to think how selfish that was, somebody that loves themselves so much would not tolerate that, you know? They would also not live in that scarcity mindset. They would know that if they let that go and release that there was something else out there for them, you know? But there is a pattern. People that are with narcissists, a lot of them do tend to have a lot of codependent tendencies. Yeah. So I would read the book Codependent No More. It changed my life. I grew up with an alcoholic parent, so I went to Al-Anon. I went to church a lot. And a lot of what that did was just show me that I was loved just because I existed in this earth. Like, I was totally loved and accepted just for being who I was. And that was a concept that was so foreign to me, because when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, you feel like you're literally fighting and begging for their love. And if I can be this way and maybe act this way, or be the perfect woman, he'll treat me right. And so you feel defective and you feel unlovable, and you have to really look at yourself as just like this. I would literally envision myself as this like magnificent, beautiful person, literally the opposite of how I felt, and kind of just like love on myself, you know, and just think like, Dana, you're beautiful, you're worthy, just being who you are, you know? And affirmations are key. I mean, if you ever look into like CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy, because your neural pathways, especially after being in a narcissist, I mean, your brain is changed. So you have to combat it with that too. There are neural pathways and affirmations, looking at yourself in the mirror, in the eyeball, and you're not going to believe it at first. You're not. But in telling yourself just a list of affirmations is key. Because you're going to have to get your brain to get out of that like fight or flight situation, you know, the nervous system. And you're going to have to just undo all of that work that narcissist did. Hypnosis helped me just because I was so downtrodden. I couldn't take anything into my heart. You know, I literally had to go into the subconscious mind. And then also just like breathing and getting your nervous system just calm, because breathing, I always say, if you can control your breathing, you can control your life. Like, it will change your life. And if I could get myself to where I felt safe, then I could make better rational decisions, not out of that emotional brain. It was more out of that logical place. But, and then when I would get to that state, then tell myself, you know, you're loved, you're worthy, but you have to do it like it's your job. You do. It's extremely important, because it'll change your life. If you don't heal, then you're going to unfortunately meet somebody else with the same tendencies.
So good. So many good
points. I mean, throughout this whole conversation, but right there, oh my goodness. And then speaking to the breathing piece, I'm a yoga teacher. So that is
Oh,
right.
you are? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't talk about it a ton, but yeah, I teach a few times a week here locally, and I incorporate a lot of yoga philosophy into my flirting framework and into my coaching, my content. Yeah.
Oh, yoga is amazing. It is
Oh, yeah.
amazing. My son who has anxiety, like he does it. It is amazing. Yes.
Ah,
And to get
it's so good.
the mind and the body and the nervous system all on that like same page is just it's key. Yes. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and exactly. For me, it's really a practice of connection, and that's how I try and bring it into my classes, where you're uniting mind, body, and soul, and coming. You hear teachers talk about, of course, the breathing element coming into your body, and this is what it's ultimately about. So you can step into this energy of authenticity, of who you are, of your being, and
I have goosebumps.
yeah, that's what it's about.
So true. And whatever somebody believes in, just to know and to have that hope of like you have a higher calling. There is something out there that is like wanting to connect with you and to show you how truly beautiful and lovely you are. And to know like you were built or you were born to be on this earth during this day and age for a reason. And to get that like locked and loaded into your brain sometimes is so hard. So like yoga, I definitely would recommend for people, because they can let it get into their heart more so.
Yes. Yeah. It's a heart-centered practice. That's the way
that's amazing.
I love to practice it. And I want to, so many good tips for healing, even within a narcissistic relationship. And I want to ask now, because one thing I get from many things, but one thing I get from your content is shifting from that scarcity mindset you were talking about to this mindset of just opportunity and openness and limitless. And so, because I know from your content as well that everything shifted and changed in some very positive ways once you left that relationship. So now, sort of stepping into this new mindset, some of the changes that happened in your life. I'd love to hear about that.
It definitely did change. I remember, his name is Phil Good. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The like mindset, but yes.
Okay. So I'm obsessed with him. I love him. And he's just so full of love, and he's just profound to me. So, and I was like on a spiritual journey, and he really talks a lot about surrender and the power of surrender, and knowing like, okay, I'm going to surrender and trust and have faith that there are better things to come. And just knowing that like God, the universe, whatever, has your back truly. And that I live, there's this thing from Neville Goddard, and he talks about how everybody was there and they were farming for diamonds and nobody could find the diamonds. And come to find out, and I'm kind of paraphrasing this man lived on an acre full of diamonds the entire time. And to live your life as if you live on an acreage full of diamonds. And if you live in that gratitude mindset, and that like, because at some point you think, oh gosh, like, am I getting punked? All of these bad things are happening to me.
Yeah.
But if you shift that and you practice gratitude, and you practice even the bad things, and you practice gratitude with even the bad things, and you're grateful for those experiences. And then you shift it. No, everything is working out perfectly for me. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And just knowing, no, this isn't going to be my life. I'm going to be abundant in love, finance, whatever. It's a mind shift change that changed my life, truly.
Yeah.
And it like was a level up, and it keeps happening. And I'm like, this is amazing. And people say, do you have imposter syndrome? And I'm like, no, because I know, I knew it was going to happen. Like I've been saying it, and I remember getting locked into my garage. He had taken my car. It was a whole thing. And I just sat in my garage, and I was like, this is supposed to happen. Thank you, God, for letting me be here. And then all of a sudden I got a phone call from my neighbor who let me out of my garage. It was so weird. And then things just leveled up. It was really cool.
I love it. I got a couple more questions for you. I want to come back to something you mentioned a little earlier in the conversation about how
these relationships with a narcissist can really change us. And so as so many things have happened, positive changes have happened with not just your mindset, but also with your life as well, with your own healing as you left that relationship, but also how you can start to trust people again, how you can start to be vulnerable with them, but still, like you said earlier, keep a little bit to yourself, right? Keep some of you to you.
Well, and it's funny because I don't feel at risk anymore with people, because I have healed so much of that of me. And because I do put myself at a higher, and I would say I put myself on a pedestal, but I love myself so much. And I think that I'm so special and worthy that like I wouldn't open up to just anybody that I met after a week about, the true innards of my heart and my soul, and some of that too, I think is sacred and only there for me and God. And so there's a lot of me that is a lot more reserved, I feel like, which is funny because that mystery that like I didn't have before, I have now. And men are so attracted to it. They love that about me. They think that's amazing, and they always talk about this black cat energy.
Yes.
I have it naturally. And men are like, oh my God, and it's because you really truly believe that. Like you think that, and I always look at like, there was this Planet Earth episode where there's these male birds and they're just like beautiful and their feathers and they're walking around and they're trying to impress these female birds that look so like, unbothered, and they're building nests and they're doing all this. And it's like, it's how nature can be designed sometimes. And I'm like, okay, so I truly have that mystery, but in turn, it makes like men kind of go crazy. They love it.
Absolutely. Yes. Some of that black cat energy. Are you dating currently?
I am.
You're
I
dating.
actually have a boyfriend now.
Dana.
As of like yesterday, actually.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Yeah. And he's amazing. And it's funny because there's things that like I used to put pressure on people before. Like I used to think that they had to check all these boxes, And when you let people be themselves and you accept them for who they are, and then vice versa, it's so freeing, first of all, to not have that pressure on people, because then you're not putting expectations on people that they're going to fail you on, but then it lets people be themselves. And then you get this just like truly cool, beautiful relationship. Sorry, my things are going off. Yeah. So, and he's amazing. And he met my kids. Nobody's met my kids. He's one of those people that like, it's funny. I've never had a man that like makes me like weak. Like when I look at them, I'm like, and he does. But like, he's kind of everything that I've always wanted. But back in the day, I didn't think that I was good enough to have.
Yes.
So it's cool. It's like a full circle moment.
I am so happy for you. How did you all meet? Was this a mutual friend online?
Just through a friend. Yeah.
Through a friend.
And they were like, they didn't even say much about me. They're like, I know Dana. She's amazing, and this is my best friend and he's amazing. Yeah. And so like, we just started talking and I was like, I always think this guy and sometimes if somebody was boring, I used to think I would not talk to them. And it's not even the case, but you got to give people a minute,
Yes.
But he was so, very attracted to the mystery for sure.
Yeah.
Pursued me consistently, put the effort in. And it wasn't like he talked a lot about it. He just did it. And it was, nope, this is what I want to do. Kind of one of those things, Yeah. And it's just the respect. It's the mutual respect that we have. I don't know. I mean, we'll see where it goes, but it's funny because have you heard of the invisible string theory?
Yes.
So there's so many things that were in our lives that we just missed it, like right there, kind of like leading up to it. And it kind of reaffirms like that the universe is really working everything out for you. You just have to trust it. And I had to be in that place of surrender to let in love.
I love that. And this is like, sometimes we can feel in the midst of a difficult time in our lives where we're healing, but we're also experiencing a lot of pain and just maybe hopelessness, even sadness, some difficult emotions. Keep going, right? Keep believing in yourself. And here you are now in a relationship. This is really, really cool. And so I just have a couple more questions as we round out this conversation. And one is here just about your mission. You're very empowering. Sort of, I think that's been a part of this conversation throughout. But yeah, your kind of mission, what you hope to inspire in people. Yeah, speaking a little bit to that.
Yeah, and it gets me emotional just because, I went through it and it felt so unfair,
Mm.
and I had a really bad childhood too.
Mhm.
So I've experienced abuse, neglect kind of from the beginning. And it makes you, it is that decision to not be bitter. It's that decision to like look at the good. And I had to keep on and I had to keep on believing. And I'm so thankful that I have this like faith seed in me that I'm like, no, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. But like when you have gone through the trenches, when you've gone through hell, there's somebody named Marsha Linehan. She does DBT, but she said that she went through hell. And she said that when she got out of it, she was determined to go back and like save the others. And there's so many, and I deal with a lot of women. There's so many women that I see that are just on the floor, on the carpet. They don't think they can get up and they feel they're trapped because there's, financial control. There's all of these control things, but you can get out and just going and letting them know and sharing my story because it was really bad. And finances were not good. I didn't think that I could do it on my own. And not only did I do it on my own, but I'm thriving. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm like totally succeeding. It's almost like a door just like blew open and my life changed, But my mission, and that's why like I got on TikTok during 2020, just making funny, like whatever voiceovers, but just to see how like my story resonated and how so many people need to hear it. And I get messages where they're like, I left my abuser, I'm living in a shelter. Like, thank you for, giving me the motivation. And then I'll hear a message from them 6 months later and they're like, I have my own apartment. I'm happy. I'm thriving. Yes. I'm so excited. Yes. Like it makes me so happy. And just to know, like I did it and I literally had everything that would have made me not do it. And you can do it with your head held high. You can look good doing it. And just to give people hope, like there is so much better of a life on that other side of cleaning off the nachos off the wall,
Yeah.
But that's definitely my mission, is to help people. But even if they're not in that bad relationship, but just to shift their mindset and truly, because it feels like woo woo, like, okay, but it does work. And if you look at the good, you're going to find the good. And to live life just happy, but then also to accept people around you, and it's that fine line of like, do I have boundaries? But like, we all had trauma that we need to work on. We just need to love ourselves and not judge ourselves through it. Because life is definitely a journey, but I definitely want to help people get out of that trench.
And you definitely are, just evidenced by your comments and DMs, and have helped me too. It's like, that's why I save so many of your videos when I'm just struggling in my own life and I am having difficulty just being optimistic and seeing the good in myself and others, feeling like life is turning against you. It's just hard to see any opportunities. It's like I go to you. You're one of my gurus. I just have one final question, a fun one, as we're going to end here. Dana, what's the trifecta?
Oh, the trifecta.
Trifecta.
It's one of my favorite things to talk about, actually.
Yes.
So it's my skincare, and it's one of the things that got me on the map in TikTok.
Yep.
And there's been some controversy. I mean, I just saw a dermatologist video today actually about it, and I was like, oh gosh. But I use Dial antibacterial hand soap as my face wash. Then I use the Neutrogena Retinol Pro as my retinol, and then La Roche-Posay as my moisturizer. But that trifecta has helped my skin and so many people's skin. There are so many people that tagged me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm glowing. And and I overcomplicated it for so many years. Like I was getting stuff from, like my acid, all this stuff. And I'm telling you, it's not for everybody. Obviously, skincare is dynamic, but it is, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. And I love seeing the DMs like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. My face is totally different.
It's so good. I've yet to try it, but I really want to. It's the dial soap that I'm hung up on.
People are like, I don't want to try it. But then they'll get to the point where they're like, I've tried everything else and I'm at like a loss. And I swear I want Alex Earl because she struggles with her acne and she talks about it. And I'm like, Alex, just try the trifecta.
The trifecta.
Yes, girl. One of my daughter's friends, same thing. She tried the trifecta and it cleared up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I got to try it. Cause I want that. Like I've got like the T-zone stuff happening, like in the nose. And that's what, like,
when I turned 35, it got kind of like crazy. So I'm trying to age, as unnatural as possible. I'm just kidding. But I definitely, I want to look as good as possible as I age. And the trifecta like changed my skin. It's crazy.
And you do. You be looking good, Dana. I got it. So good. This was such an amazing conversation. I know the Flirties are really, really going to enjoy it. So happy that you were on the show today. Only other question I have, I'll have everything linked in the show notes as well, but where the Flirties can find you, follow you, watch your videos. Yeah, connect with you.
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok as Dana Jill Flaherty, my name. I am on Instagram, and I'm not as good about promoting on Instagram. I need to be, because I had a lot of family that followed me, and it feels weird because TikTok's like my separate life, Yeah. But I just had to let it go, whatever. But so I talk a lot on TikTok, and I have playlists. So if they need just to fill up on this kind of stuff, I have playlists on that. Yep. I have not niched down, and I refuse to niche down. So
don't do it. It's a trap.
I can't.
Don't do it.
So it is definitely a whole box of crayons when you come to my page, but there's a lot of love, and that's something that like I just think conquers all. And I hope that like somebody can get their cup filled when they come to my page.
Oh, they will. They will. I'm going to send the Flirties there. And Dana Flaherty, thank you so much for being on Flirtations today.
Thank you. I love being here. This is awesome.
Flirties, that is a wrap on this episode of Flirtations. Thank you so much to our guest, Dana Flaherty, for being on the show today, having this conversation with us and sharing so much about her own personal experiences. Dana is someone, I am not kidding when I say I look through my saved videos and it is Dana, someone that I have just learned so much from, that has inspired me. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that she was on the show now sharing. Maybe you all are meeting her for the first time. Please give Dana a follow. She is absolutely incredible. So fantastic. Thank you to you, the Flirties, for listening, for tuning in wherever you may be in the world. I invite you now to please rate, review, subscribe the show, share this episode with someone, a friend, maybe someone who needs some dating advice or is talking to a narcissist maybe right now and needs to hear this. All right, officially signing off from here at Flirt Headquarters. My name is Benjamin. I'm the Flirt Coach and Gay Libra. I will see you all very soon on the social feeds or in the next episode of Flirtations. Okay, Flirty. Happy flirting.